Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Ezra Levance, my name. It's November 23rd. Welcome to the daily show we have here every day at 12 noon. We do a live stream chit-chat, and we invite you to participate. We play that little warning at the front because if we don't, YouTube will give us a strike. And of course, 3 strikes, you're out. Dr. Roger Hodkinson, a doctor in Edmonton, who is a friend of the Rebel, gave a testimony to the Edmonton City Council on the virus, and that was recorded and it was published on a variety of YouTube channels. They all got strikes. So this is a doctor, a respected pathologist. I don't know, he's been a doctor for 40 years, I would guess. He's testifying to City Council, so he was invited to give this information. And I am aware of many sites who ran the audio of his testimony. The video was slapped down and the channel was suspended. Isn't that odd? So we have to put that warning at the beginning of our videos or YouTube will delete us. They already gave us 1 strike. And we're very careful about copyright and things like that. I think this is the first strike we've had in 5 years. We're so careful. But it's not about copyright anymore. It's about having an opinion you're not allowed to have. Nice to be with you again. Very, very busy times. The super chat function, I see Martin Sable's already super chatting. That's when you make your comment brightly colored and it sticks to the top of the chat window for a few minutes. And what we like about the super chats is that YouTube actually shares 70% of those funds with us. So they demonetize us in other ways, but they do share that with us. Here's Martin's comment. Wonder if Justin plans to cancel future election to be Prime Minister for life to make his dream seizing properties in 2030. Wonder if O'Toole will cancel Joker's destructions he has been doing since 2015. I don't know what the last point there is, but New Zealand delayed its election because of the pandemic. America, in my view, had its election swamped because of the pandemic. The pandemic gave the Democrats the excuse to go to court to demand massive mailing ballots, which cannot be in any sensible way scrutinized and validated. It was the mail votes, the postal votes, that swamped Trump in places like Pennsylvania. So yeah, the pandemic has been used, in those 2 cases at least, to subvert the regular operation of democracy. Another super chat by Martin Sable for $5. 3 ethics violations and you out should apply to a child in Ottawa. How many is he at by now? 4 or 5? Well, that's the thing. I see. I saw. The media party is, don't have a normal Christmas. Trudeau himself was saying, Christmas is normal is out. Who will bet? Who will take a bet with me that Trudeau will go to a tropical vacation? Trudeau always does. He goes to that private billionaire's island in the Bahamas. He goes to Costa Rica, where he went for, was it an 18-day holiday or a 21-day holiday or something like that? We're going to take a couple weeks off over Christmas too. And one of our team said, Ezra, you criticized Trudeau for taking a couple weeks off. Well, yeah, he's the prime minister of a country, in a world that's in crisis. I mean, if we take a couple weeks off, it's just us. Anyway, so yeah, do you really think Trudeau will not take a warm winter vacation? He himself might be fine just to hang out in Rideau Cottage, smoking pot and playing PlayStation. But his grasping, gold-digging wife, she will be satisfied with nothing less than a beach vacation. And we know this because, as we've shown you before, it was Sophie Trudeau, not Justin Trudeau, that demanded the beach vacation on Billionaire Island in the Bahamas. That's not rumor or speculation. That was published in the Ethics Commissioner's report. How did the Trudeaus wind up mooching, I think it was estimated a $200,000 vacation on this billionaire's island? Sophie Trudeau demanded it and called up the Princess Zara, the daughter of the Ismaili Imam, the Aga Khan, and said, can I come down there with my girlfriends? And the princess said, well, we're not going to be there. And Sophie said, no, that's okay. No, I just want the party. I want the beach house place. I don't need you there. So do you really think that Sophie Trudeau will be satisfied staying in frosty Quebec during this holiday season? I do not. I have a question for you, though. Will the RCMP and the CBC keep it a secret? Here's what I mean. The RCMP accompanied Trudeau and his family to his illegal vacation on Billionaire Island. I call it illegal because it was a breach of the conflict of interest law, as found out by the judge, a kind of judge called the Conflict of Interest Commissioner. So the RCMP are more than happy to not only allow, but to assist Justin Trudeau breaking the law. The CBC, their very lifeblood comes from Justin Trudeau. As you and I are locked down in this frozen, shut down country, do you really think Justin Trudeau and his grasping wife are going to stay here with us? Do you really think so? I don't think so. But if the RCMP collude with him and if the CBC keeps it quiet, how would we know? Well, it'll be interesting, won't it? I want to look at my notes here because Justin sends me the super chats and I want to make sure I don't miss them. Mark Cougar, $5. I was wondering if you could explain further about your tweets on the weekend about Lamont Daigle and what other organization does he work for. Cheers. Mark, thank you for that. Can you call up David's interview with Lamont and if you can, get it to the part where he talks about driving a truck through the CBC? So, we've been covering the pandemic pushback, the Yahoo Nation as it's called, since almost the beginning. David Menzies has attended, 30 of those events, and our cameraman. And we report on everyone, and we're not judgy about style or class. We've helped publicize a very interesting character named Chris Sky and the lovely Miss Jenny, as David calls her. We are not snobby about that, and we like to strengthen others who are skeptics and dissidents, especially with this unscientific lockdown. But rather recently, this guy out of the blue appears. His name is Lamont Daigle, and he's got this slick organization called The Line Canada. And they have fancy logos, and they got a website, and he's calling himself the global boss. And I'm thinking, all right, so this guy knows how to ham it up, and he's a good self-promoter. That's fine. He's an entrepreneur who sees a political opening. The more, the merrier. And we covered him, and just like we cover Chris Sky, and we cover anybody. Cover Randy Hillier, cover Rocco Galati. There are so few dissidents that our role at Rebel News is to give them a fair shake, to give them a forum, to defend them legally where we can. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but Tamara Ugolini, who you can see right here, that's a picture of her being interviewed by David when she was arrested for walking on the beach. So we helped her with a Fight the Fines case, and we liked her so much we gave her a job. So we're definitely about growing and supporting people who share a point of view. It's not a turf war thing. I want to make that clear. But more and more this Lamont Daigle, I found him confusing because he didn't seem to have a grasp of things. I mean, what impressed me so much about Yahoo Nation, if I can use that phrase, is that unlike protests on the left, like I've been to 100 protests on the left, They generally don't know why they're there. The hardest question you can ask anyone at a left-wing protest is, why are you here? I mean, that should be obvious. They don't know why they're there. They were given their signs like half an hour earlier. They were told to show up. They don't know why they're there. They're paid protesters. You go to Yahoo Nation at Queen's Park or Yonge Dundas Square in Toronto or in Vancouver, Drea has been going there, Steinbach, Aylmer. Everyone knows exactly why they're there. And for many of them, it's their first time being political. I don't know if you saw that interview I did with Amy Stewart in the UK, the Yorkshire single mom. She said she'd never been political in her life before, but she started speaking out. So we're all in favor of supporting people, but Lamont seemed odd in that his language seemed odd. He didn't have an underlying principle. It just seemed all of a sudden this guy with a sense of style presents himself with this flashy, but he was a little bit incoherent. That's fine. We're not all silver-tongued devils. But then he started saying things that I found worrisome. He talked about violence. Do you have that clip of him? Do you have that? No, Justin's looking it up. We'll take a minute. He talked about getting violent. Violent? David Menzies, Mocha Bazirgan, our cameraman, Drea Humphrey, Tamara Ugolini. I'm not sure if Sheila's Kean. I'm not sure who else who's covered some of these protests, but David for sure, he's been to 30 of them. Drea's been to a few of them. We've never seen anyone call for violence. Never. Ever. And suddenly this leader who comes in out of the blue is calling for violence? And my first thought, I remember I sent a note to Mocha, I said, narc, not a narcotics officer, but an undercover agitator, agent provocateur. There's so much at stake in this pandemic lockdown. There's so much money on the mask side, on the vaccine side. There's so much politically at stake to smother any dissidents. And some of these protests on the street are quite large. So all of a sudden, out of the blue, comes this anti-lockdown activist who has no real history. I mean, can you call up Lamont's dancing video? Go to his YouTube page. It made me laugh. This guy who seems to flit from thing to thing, a little bit weird, a little bit cult-like sometimes, and suddenly he's talking about violence. And my thought is, you're an underminer. You are trying to discredit the movement so that you're trying to position yourself as a leader, even though you're a Johnny-come-lately. Okay, that's fine. But you're trying to take a leadership position. Okay, that's fine. Even though they were all here before you. That's fine. Yeah, you know, there's Lamont. He just, you know, he loves being him. He just loves the camera. Can you give me some sound? Oh yeah, okay, you can kill the music. So there he is. Like, that's Lamont. He loves the camera. Hey, so do I. He's a more stylish dancer than me, although I used to have the moves. I mean, the guy is a character, so is he just goofy or is he an underminer? Thanks very much. The reason I ask you that is because if a guy presents himself as a leader of the movement, but he comes from nowhere and you have no provenance of him, and then he says things that are deeply damaging and discrediting, like, do you have that clip? Yeah, here, take a look. We'll be ready in a second. When he says, I want to drive my car through the main floor of the CBC, as in I want to kill people. Where the hell did that just come from? You kook? No, that's not that is a kook. But is that someone trying to taint the movement as violent? Take a look.
When we look at this one quote here, trust me when I tell you, it is a daily battle to not take someone's car and drive it through the middle of the CBC. I don't know how that falls into the bailiwick of self-defense in any regard. I mean, I'm no fan. I don't think anyone at the Rebel is a fan of the CBC, but I would never advocate a violent act against the CBC or an employee of the CBC.
I completely agree with you. And as a matter of fact, it's not just about the CBC, about CTV, City TV, any of these mainstream media that have been lying about the numbers that have been here. Because quite frankly, we've seen it up to 10,000 people here. And they're always reporting about 100 people, 200 people, 300 people. So they're lying to the people. They've been lying to us for 7 months. And personally, not the Line Canada, but personally, I'm fed up with them. And I can have ideas in my mind about how I feel about driving a car through the CBC. It's a fantasy in my mind that would never play out in actuality. Ever, ever, ever. So sometimes you say things when you're fed up. That's all. It's just emotion.
Well, I am happy to hear that. I mean, I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist, but the line in the sand is advocating harm.
That goes on for a bit. He's extremely evasive. Can you get to the giant penis? Because he talks about going to this weekend getaway where guys sit around naked and they pass around this giant wooden penis. And I don't have a lot to say about what people do sexually. Like it's not a top 10 kind of issue for me. In my mind, the world has enormous challenges and people's sexuality is not high on my list to care about. If they keep it to themselves and consenting adults, I don't care. I don't want to hear about it, really. But if someone is a weird leader in something that strikes me as a cult, like bizarre thing, maybe that's useful to know. Is this guy just crazy? Is he just an attention hound? I think he is. Clothes horse, I think he is. Or is he just a useful idiot coming to undermine the movement by being such a wacko? Let me know when you got that giant wooden penis thing. So over the weekend, the Line Canada, so anyway, we did a story on that and they said, oh, no, we didn't mean to be violent, didn't mean violent, that was just undisciplined talk. And then over the weekend, I don't know if you can find that tweet. I'm throwing a lot of things at you, Justin. But can you find that tweet? Over the weekend, there's a tweet that the Line Canada did. They've blocked me, so I can't find it. But over the weekend, they post a tweet saying if Ontario's lockdowns goes into the gray zone, which is total lockdown, it's time for a revolution. Okay, so you've been talking about violence, talking about your fantasy is violence, talking about driving a car through the CBC, talking about how emotional you are and how you hate things. We and that other media group called Diverge expose it, and you say, oh, no. And then you put up a meme about revolution. I'm going to say you're an underminer. Now, whether or not you're there on behalf of some healthcare deep state, whether you're paid by a anti-hate police squad or paid for, I don't know. But you're a kook, you're unstable, you have violent thoughts, you're embarrassing to the movement. When you're called out on it, you say, oh, no. But then you call for a revolution. I don't think I would have reacted to the meme calling for a revolution had I not had the previous knowledge that Lamont Daigle talks about killing people, or at least injuring them. When you fantasize about driving a vehicle through the CBC office, that is tantamount to saying I want to smash people with my car, which could likely kill them. You have discredited yourself, you have disqualified yourself from being a leader of anything. And if the Line Canada, which I don't think is a real organization, I think it's a website with a handful of people, and if you go to my Twitter feed and click maybe media, you can find it. They've blocked me. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, I'm giving a very long answer, but I wanted to explain why. Yeah, there it is. If you just go to me and click on the media, Do you want me to send you the link? I'll send it to you right now on WhatsApp. So it's a very long answer, but it's an important question because I don't think we should be splittist. I don't think we should engage in internecine quarrels. But can you zoom in a bit? Can you zoom in? So the Line Canada tweets, green, advance, yellow, expose, orange, unite, red, resist, gray, revolution. So you were just talking about violence and driving your car through the CBC. You admitted you have these rage fantasies. You've been called out on it, but you're still doing it. You're still doing it. You know what you are? You are a gift to Doug Ford, who can say these people call for violence. You are a gift to the hate police who laughably claim that Canada is overrun by hate activists. Lamont Daigle should be fired from the Line. I don't think that's actually possible because I think the Line is merely a website, a logo, and Lamont Daigle. And I think he's a creepy kook. And do you have that big penis thing? Yeah, no problem. Thanks for getting it. So that's a very long answer. This probably doesn't interest people outside of the Greater Toronto area. But I guess what I'm saying is, I think he's a narc or a fool. We know he's an attention whore, and I think he's dangerous to the movement. We all have our flaws. Chris Sky is a larger-than-life character, and some could point out his flaws. Rocco Galati, Randy Hillier, etc. We all have our David Mayo. I have more flaws than all of those people combined. But I think that Lamont Daigle is trying to inject into the anti-lockdown movement a narrative of violence and promotion of violence that is not genuine, not organic in the movement, and that will be seized upon at a particular time by the movement's critics in order to shut it down, demonize it, perhaps even prosecute it. He may just be a tremendously stupid man, but I think it's equally likely that he has a nefarious, like he may be stupid and benign in his intentions, even though the result is malevolent. But I know enough about undercover police in Canada to know that entryism is standard operating procedure. You know there was a Canadian Nazi Party? That's my next project for you. Maclean's Magazine, Canadian Nazi Party. We'll go to the clip in 1 second. You know the Canadian Nazi Party in Canada? You're not even going to believe this. I'll show you the Maclean's article in a second. Justin will dig it up. Do you know it was funded by the Canadian Jewish Congress? They funded the Nazi Party. I know that sounds insane, but they did. And have you ever heard of something called the Heritage Front? It was a racist group. Its leader, Grant Bristow, was a CSIS agent, Canadian Security Intelligence Service. Yeah. My 16 months as a Nazi, when was this, 1960-something? I spied on that. So this was their cover. I spied on the Nazis. This is a fascinating article. And this is on the Maclean's website, right? Yeah, it's archived. So my 16 months as a Nazi. I am a licensed private investigator. Can you search for the word Jewish? You know how to do like Command F or something? Oh, there you go. Oh, I'm sorry, if I should just finish reading the sentence. I'm a licensed private investigator who more than a year ago was employed by the Canadian Jewish Congress to infiltrate the Canadian Nazi Party. I was more successful than expected. I became a trusted officer of the party. Its local Heinrich Himmler. But he was funding it. Can you do Command F and maybe money or funding or cash or something? Money, maybe try money. Oh, there you go. After every fresh wave of publicity, more sympathizers came to offer meeting money, contributed money. Are there any other, can you scroll down to more examples of there? Because if I haven't read this in a while. And next one. Okay, so the word money just comes up, his donors. Okay, thanks very much. So my point is, the Canadian Jewish Congress, I have no doubt that there were the odd paper tiger Nazis in Canada in the 60s. But the Canadian Jewish Congress sent in someone, paid someone to be an executive with them. And it's been a while since I've read that. So my point is, underminers are not a new thing. Agents, provocateurs. Call it a honey trap. You know, I believe the Soldiers of Odin in Canada is basically a way that the RCMP collects every racist in the country. I'm not saying everyone in Soldiers of Odin is a racist, but I believe that they are a RCMP front group so that the RCMP can get a name and contact and a watchful eye on every racist in the country. That's what they did with the Heritage Front. The idea was, let's create a racist group, pull everyone out of the woodwork, and suckers, Grant Bristow, the leader of the Heritage Front himself, was a cop. So I think that's one possibility for Lamont Daigle. Here's him talking about a giant penis. I've caught Justin off guard again. I've given him like 20 things to look for. Here, take a look.
Quote someone who actually took part in a Mankind Project event. And I mean, who am I to judge what you do on your free time, your personal life, Lamont? But he was talking about him being blindfolded and walking around in the nude on a tour, people blowing sage smoke in his face while 50 or so naked men danced around candles, and men sitting naked in a circle discussing their sexual histories while passing a wooden dildo around called the cock. Is this something you took part in?
Well, number one, I am not the Mankind Project. I am an initiated member of the Mankind Project, and I've been a part of them since 2009. And there's a weekend called the New Warrior Training Adventure. And what happens on that weekend is a secret for a reason, right? Because there are men's rituals that we go through, including sweat lodges and certain really nice indigenous, ways that, to help men mentor other men.
But is it anything that resembles that description of an initiation that I just read?
You know what? That's a question that I'm not prepared to answer, quite frankly. I would say this: if you're prepared to speak to some of the administration of Mankind Project, you can ask them that question. And because I have, a secret oath to these people that I don't talk about what happens on the weekend, because the whole part of what's called a hero's journey is that you don't tell somebody if they're going to go through a 3-day weekend where they're there to empower themselves and go through male rituals, that we talk about it. So that's it. I don't talk.
Can you go just before that, 30 seconds before that clip, he was talking more about violence. And that'll be the last we talk about Lamont Daigle today. We spent too much time on him. But what I'm trying to say is, my friends, if you're like me, you have a very bright line on your left. That people are too far to the left, you disagree with them if they just contradict your values too much. But we also need a line on our right. Now, I don't think Lamont Daigle is right-wing. I think he's just a kook. I don't think he is clever enough to have an ideological philosophy. I think that what he was describing there was cult-like. I don't think he denied a word of it. And even if he was in some weirdo cult, again, I don't think that that's disqualifying. It's his talk about violence that is disqualifying. If Lamont Daigle wants to be in some sex cult, I think it's creepy. I don't want to, hang out with him. I think that it calls into question his judgment. It's the talk about violence. Again, I don't even think Lamont Daigle is personally violent. I think he's trying to lay down footprints of calls for violence that later will be a trap for the anti-lockdown movement. Just before the clip, like just as we headed into that, there was another comment about violence. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's fine. There was and on screen there was something about violence. This is our last Lamont Daigle. I promise we'll move on. I want to tell people why I think it's necessary to have hygiene. I'm not even going to say Lamont Daigle is to your right. I think he's a narc. But I'm saying that if you are in the conservative political movement, which we are here, and someone's talking about violence, or someone's talking about racism, or someone's talking about, revolution, and if they mean it in a physical or violent way, that's a time to say, no, that we disagree with you, and cork it or get out, or, oh, you're just a Johnny-come-lately leader, you're a narc. Anyway, here's the last clip, and then we're going to move on from this topic.
That's absolutely untrue, and
This is a smear by your enemies on you. Is that what you're saying?
always, because you know what? It's a really easy way for a soundbite to come in that this is what happened, and we don't want to be a part of that group because of that. But people will make a jump statement at a one-liner about Antifa and then choose to turn their back on a movement that is, quite frankly, a bunch of really great people, and not show up and support their Canadian patriots.
Now, Lamont, you also said you have no belief in the judicial system and you've given up on trusting the police. I'm just wondering, if that is indeed the case, then why even bother supporting lawyer Rocco Galati in his challenge, his constitutional challenge to all these lockdown and masking laws, if you don't even believe in the judicial system anymore?
Well,
It was a 20-minute interview. Don't worry about it. But he just talks about violence. I'm not interested in a guy talking about violence. First of all, I don't even believe him. I think he's a dandy who wouldn't get his manicured nails, wrecked in a fight. I think his sole purpose is to personally promote himself. Hey, no problem, get in line. But calling for violence, he's planting little time bombs in the movement. And as far as I'm concerned, the Line Canada is simply a vehicle either for his own ego. Again, I say no problem there. But if he's laying down a message track that's of violence, I tell you that the sole outcome of that will be the discrediting of the entire movement. So that's a half-hour answer to a super chat. Bill Howie, $5. Sheila Gunn-Reid from Mayor of Edmonton. I'm sure she'll get lots of campaign donations. Make it so, Ezra. Oh, Sheila has bigger horizons. I think being the Mayor of Edmonton is a big job and an important job. It's a city of more than 1 million in the greater area. But I hope that Sheila maintains her place with us, because a mayor may have some power, but Sheila has great influence. And I would never sentence Sheila to being a mayor or a other civic politician. Puddin' Puss, $5. Keep fighting for the truth. We will. Yorgi, $5. Hey, Ezra, can you explain your tweets regarding Lamont Daigle, please? I have at great length, Yorgi. Varying Redbeard, £5. Smash thumbs like it's your ex. I don't even know what that means. Mike Sigwin, $70. Mike, that's amazing. Thank you very much. Ian McKnight, $5. YouTube requires a disclaimer on factual COVID information. However, Grey's Anatomy can portray COVID as a super Ebola with no disclaimer needed. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, but I believe you. I mean, it was like that show Law and Order, which I used to watch, 20 years ago or whatever. They would take political news that involved a crime and they would rewrite it from an extremist left-wing perspective. So I'm sure that Grey's Anatomy's done the same without even seeing it. James Smith, $20. Lamont didn't turn up out of the blue. He was at Queen's Park since April, same as me. He's not perfect, but he's committed to freedom. That interview was late at night and what he thought was friendly media. Well, James, I disagree with you extremely deeply, because friendly media does not mean cover up for his stupid statements. And for him to blame them and say, how dare you report that I want violence? And you know what? I'm going to disagree with you. And I'm going to say this, and I'm putting my marker down. His stupid words that were repeated again in that tweet calling for revolution will be used by bad faith leftists, anti-hate activists, and police to harm the greater movement. And frankly, other than dressing like a dandy, doing some dancing on some speakers in a mall, being part of some weird sex cult, and a string of even weirder New Age videos, can you tell me what he's actually done besides promote himself? I can tell you. He's talked about violence. And we have interviewed hundreds of people over the year. And isn't it funny that the only person we have ever met at any of these anti-lockdown protests who has talked about violence is this so-called leader? He is the only one who's talked about violence. And I can tell you, we had our eyes and ears open. And you can say that's a coincidence. You can say it was late at night. He trusted them. Well, if he trusted them, then all the more it's true. If he trusted them with his deepest thoughts. He's a liability, and he will undo the movement if he's allowed unchecked. Let me keep going. Peter Bass, $5. Did you see the George Floyd exhibit in the Holocaust Museum? I never realized he was Jewish or died in the Holocaust. Learn something new every day. Oh yeah, you know, I tweeted about that and got enormous pickup from it. Even Dean Cain and others. In fact, it was picked up around the world. I should have written a news story instead of tweeted about it. Here's a clip. We have that clip. This is so bizarre. I find this a form of Holocaust revisionism, Holocaust trivialization. George Floyd was a criminal who died in an altercation with police. The police have been charged with killing him. The matter, I don't think, has been concluded. It was the start of riots. I'm not saying that George Floyd deserved death in his arrest, although he was on drugs and had a criminal history. But to equate him to the death of 6 million Jews at the hands of Nazi Germany is morally absurd. And to likewise equate the police who killed him with the Nazi war machine is equally trivializing the Holocaust. Take a look at this.
Today, the Holocaust Memorial Resource and Education Center is showcasing a new exhibit.
It displays powerful images taken after the death of George Floyd. As News 6's Ezzy Castro got a look at this exhibit and spoke to the photographer who captured moments he says he'll never forget.
When you walk inside the Holocaust Center in Maitland, you'll be able to see some of the faces of those who mourn the death of George Floyd, a black man who died in police custody in Minneapolis on Memorial Day. His death sparked protests across the city and around the country. The portraits captured by photographer John Noltner.
When George Floyd was killed, that happened 11.6 miles north of my house. And I knew, with a piece of my mind's goal being to hear voices that aren't.
You don't have to watch the whole thing. It's just George Floyd is criminal, serial criminal. And I say he shouldn't. It is an unhappy and perhaps illegal outcome that he died in an arrest. In no way am I condoning that or cheering for that. I don't think we've had the legal conclusion of whether or not that was murder by the police or if it was something else. I don't know. But I know that he is not morally equivalent to 6 million Jews dying at the hands of Nazi Germany. And to put him in a Holocaust museum is gross. There's a stunning super chat by Damon the Dam. It's $200. Amazing. Thank you very much. Ezra, I like to push my chartered freedom of expression to the point where the left can't use the moral high ground of manners against me. Everybody has the right to be wrong. But when someone comes along and wants to use you for their power trip, which is most of politics, civil disobedience. I don't quite understand what you're referring to. Are you referring to Lamont Daigle? I don't know. Is that what you mean by civil disobedience? I'm for civil disobedience, but understand what civil disobedience is. It's not violent. It's not necessarily passive resistance, which is what Gandhi promoted. But Gandhi didn't say, I'm going to take a car and drive it through the offices of the CBC. There was another thing, and I'm not going to ask you to find it, but there was another quote of him promoting or supporting violence. When you do that, you color everything, and now they can say, well, you're not, the central characteristic of your speech is not an idea, but rather a threat of violence. And I just really believe that either Lamont Daigle is an underminer, agent, provocateur, like Grant Bristow was, like the Jewish Congress guy who became an executive in the Nazi Party. Either it's nefarious or he's just dumb and careless and is going to jeopardize things. It really doesn't matter which is the case. He's a liability. And put aside the gross weirdness about the guy. Civil disobedience. Let me show you what civil disobedience looks like. Civil disobedience can be loud. It can be obstinate, but it is not threats of violence. I want to show you a business, I'm not sure what business this is, kicking out inspectors while sheriffs stand by. They're speaking very loudly. I would say they're hollering. I don't know if I would say shouting. They're being confident and aggressive, but there's no threat of violence. There's no physical contact. I don't even think there's swearing. This is aggressive civil disobedience, but it's not physically aggressive. It's not saying I want to drive a car through the CBC, which is what Lamont Daigle said. Take a look at this, and I'll see you in 2 minutes on the other side. Take a look.
These people actually work for their money, and they don't want to lose their livelihood. I've lost friends, I've lost family who've killed themselves. I've seen clients die because they've lost their livelihood.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know you are, and I'm asking for you guys to have some compassion for the people that have lost everything.
We do have compassion for people who
Okay, well, you need to go
everything.
have compassion out in the parking lot.
But
this is private property.
This is
private property. This is private property.
Yes,
it's private property.
I
Go get a
didn't
warrant.
argue that.
Listen, man, this is private property. They're not wanted here. So do your jobs.
Well, her job is...
Well, no, your job is to remove people that are not wanted here.
You have a
We're wanted here. They're not.
Do you have a health department?
She had
I'm not. It's right here. It's my
There we
You
go.
can see my name.
They're just doing their job.
There we go.
You should all be wearing masks. How come
I'm not
none of you
doing
have
anything
masks
wrong.
on?
Don't worry about my health. My health isn't your
You're
concern.
meant to be wearing a mask. It's a government
Okay, well, then write me up.
It's the law.
Okay, then take me to jail.
It's not the law.
Then take me to jail.
Show me the law. Show me the law. Now hold on. Any court anywhere. Show me the law. Well, I think we got to go, John.
You have to leave. You guys have to leave. You have to leave.
Right now you're trespassing without a warrant. You need
Mass civil disobedience starts now.
You're trespassing.
We're not trespassing.
You're trespassing.
It doesn't matter. We have a right to be here.
Then get a warrant, dude. Go get a warrant.
Bring a warrant.
Go get a warrant.
Yes, you do.
Come back with the warrant or leave.
Don't write the law.
Outside. No, go on your phone outside. Go on your phone outside.
I would really like it if you
Where
would
did
stop
you hear the
shouting at me.
report
I haven't done
Okay, we
anything.
can look at who write the law.
Who reported
Go
it?
leave.
Who reported it? Who reported it?
You know what? I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
it's anonymous, right? It's
Yes,
anonymous.
It is. But
It
it's
can't
a
be
legitimate
anonymous.
complaint.
You need to
It
know
can
your
be,
accuser. You need to
that's
know. It
not-
cannot
Okay,
be
wait,
anonymous.
you gotta go get a warrant.
It
That's not
cannot
how
be
health
anonymous.
department-
It cannot be
You gotta go get a
anonymous.
warrant.
You don't get to
You gotta go
write
get a
the
warrant.
policies. You
It's
don't get to
code
violate the
enforcement.
Constitution. It
This
does not
isn't the
matter.
same
You
as
don't
that.
circumvent or subvert the Constitution.
Okay, Miss, you need to leave.
What do you think of that? Did you hear any swearing? I didn't. Did you hear any threats? I didn't. I heard references to the Constitution. I said, get a search warrant. I think I might have heard the word trespass. There was certainly no violence or threats of violence. What appeared to be two sheriffs were right there, and they seemed to, I think, take the sides of the property owners. I don't even know what kind of business that was. By the way, I don't know if their law was right. I mean, many jurisdictions, there are certain government inspectors who have the right to enter a place of business without a warrant. I'm not an expert in health inspectors, but for example, a health inspector for a restaurant, I think they have the right to show up unannounced, right? Like otherwise, a health inspector is not going to find anything, because if they have to give you a search warning in advance, you can tidy up. Now maybe it's only during hours when the business is open, so they could have said, get out, we're closed, you can't be here. Maybe they're a lot smarter than I think. But what I saw there was powerful, confident, aggressive civil disobedience. Not even civil disobedience, because they weren't saying lock me up. They were saying come back with a warrant. I feel very good about what those people did. And funny enough, none of them said, I have a fantasy of violence. So Damon the Dammits, if that's what you're referring to, there's a difference between a clothes horse dandy like Lamont Daigle, whose life experience is with a bunch of schemes and scams and naked men passing around a wooden dildo, versus real business people who are fighting for their property and their right to earn a living. I have patience for a lot of variety of the human spirit. I have patience for a lot of different people. There's a lot of colorful characters out there on the dissident side of things, especially when you talk about health. You get people who are really organic. You get people who are, into home remedies. You get a lot of curious people who are united by resistance to this lockdown. And I tell you, if they bring in the mandatory vaccines, which is a matter of time, you're going to see an even more motley crew. But it behooves those of us who think our arguments can carry the day, it behooves us to marginalize those within our movement who normalize or brainstorm or brute violence. And I don't think I would have reacted to that meme alone that said revolution, because there are peaceful revolutions. Mike Harris, the successful Premier of Ontario, his motto was a common sense revolution. You have, the word revolution can be used in many ways. But when you have gone on the record about violence before, and your sole excuse is, oh, I thought I was telling him in secret. Like, seriously, Lamont Daigle saying, oh, I told those journalists my violent fantasies. I thought they would keep my secret from me. That's not a defense. That's a confession. So yeah, I don't have time for that kook. Let me get back to the super chats. Alrighty. Proud Boys Calgary, $7. We may be weird, but we don't pass around a giant wood, just a drinking club with a patriot problem at the lockdown protest this weekend in Calgary. Thank you very much. Listen, I don't even care about the giant penis. I'm just saying it gives you a little bit of window into the guy's mind. I don't care about that. There are some very unusual people at these protests. Chris Sky and the lovely Miss Jenny are unusual people too. But they're not calling for violence. John Day, $5. Isn't that the same as that woman in the USA who prayed not to let her all these people? Super chat would not let me send original. Prayed not to let her all these people. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Proud Boys Calgary, Walk for Freedom this Saturday, Calgary City Hall, 1 p.m. Thank you. DH, $7. I don't see a message there. Robert Fraser, $5. Fear is the virus and love is the cure. We love you folks at Rebel News. Well, thank you very much. Fear actually is, fear's an emotion, fear's a literary term, but fear can manifest itself in stress and depression. And people can resort to drinking or drugs in fear. And I point out that the number of people who have died in British Columbia, Canada's third largest province, from opioids is much larger than those who have died from the virus. DH, $7. I'm from Winnipeg. I don't have any social media. How do I find out when and where protests are in my area? It's pretty cold out there, isn't it? I don't know about the protests. I don't know. I'm not a clearinghouse for that. But we are going to have a very strong focus on Manitoba in the weeks ahead because they have such an abusive lockdown. Yorgi, $20. Hey, Ezra, thank you for your response. I want to ask you a question. Once this COVID craziness ends, can we as a public change the emergency orders? I feel like we as a society need to have a discussion on that. It's too much. There needs to be emergency orders in place for emergencies. But they are, if you look at the drafting of them, they are contemplated as temporary measures. And they still must be applied within the norms of our system of justice. You can't simply say, oh, well, we're in a crisis, give the tyrant all the power. There has to be a check on that tyrant. I remember when Sam Goldstein, our civil liberties lawyer, took us through some of the emergency power legislation. For example, going from memory, under the federal emergency power legislation, a group of MP, it has to be renewed, was it every 30, 60, 90 days, something like that. And a group of MPs, I don't know if it's 10 or 20, can petition to have Parliament recalled to discuss the matter. I think the problem is we don't have any politicians. So there is protections in all the emergency legislation I've reviewed, and I've reviewed at least 2 different laws, and I'm sure they're similar across the country. There are checks and balances, but they rely on the opposition opposing. And can you tell me if that's happened anywhere? In Manitoba, in Ontario, in BC, in Alberta, in the Atlantic, in Quebec, and federally, can you tell me any place where the opposition has opposed lockdown measures? In fact, in most of the places I've just listed, the opposition wants more lockdown measures. So, frankly, the emergency powers is almost unnecessary because the opposition would do anything. They'd go along with anything. Mark Friesen, Grizzly Patriot FFC, as the problem Lamont doesn't understand is, while he may not be inclined to follow through with violent fantasy, he runs a serious risk of encouraging others to do it. Messaging is so important. Well, I actually don't think anyone would listen to Lamont. He's just not a convincing person. He comes across as not a puppet, but he comes across as a window dressing. I don't think he's a serious man. I don't think he makes serious intellectual arguments. Pastor Hildebrandt, even Chris Sky are more substantive, more knowledgeable, more articulate, have a coherent worldview. Lamont just comes across as he describes himself, a clothes horse and a dandy. I don't think anyone would be tipped into violence from what Lamont Daigle would say, but rather, by saying those words, he hangs the movement when the anti-hate cops come. Arlene Williamson, $10 if you want to stand up to the government who should have accountability to the citizens. Stop wearing masks. I've visited several businesses, 5 in Calgary on Sunday without a mask. I had no problem. Well, can you go to unmask.ca? We've got a website called unmask.ca. Actually, sorry, can you go to maskexemption.ca? Sorry to change gears on you. You're right. Today I went to the post office to pick up something. I didn't wear a mask. Didn't even come up. Didn't even come up. I think people are just so fatigued with all the BS. And they see, you know, in California, there's Governor Gavin Newsom, locks down the whole state, curfews, the whole thing, and then he goes out for a party, no mask. And his explanation is, well, it was a really dear friend of mine and it was his birthday. Do we have maskexemption.ca? Thank you very much. So, first of all, we got the buttons. I wear a button on my vest. I am exempt. And if anyone mentions anything, I just point to it and say, I'm exempt. And that's the end of it. And the only guy who's done that, there's a local grocery store where there's sort of like a greeter. And he says, where's your mask? I said, I'm exempt. He says, oh, okay. And that's the end of it. I was in the post office this morning. It didn't even come up. So if you want that button, the reason I like the button is it preempts things. Now, we used to have those mask exemption cards that you can see there, but the trouble is they weren't preemptive, they were reactive. So we sold out of those, I think. We still have a printable version if you want to print it out. You can get the file on that website. But I recommend the button instead, because by the time someone says, where's your mask? If you reach into your wallet to get that card, you're on defense already. And then finally we have, you see that mask there? Masks are useless. There are some situations where you absolutely must wear a mask and there's no way out of it. So if you want to wear a mask, it says masks are useless. That's your answer right there. So this is all at maskexemption.ca. Scroll down a bit more. You can see all the different jurisdictions there. And we just got the, mask bylaw and exemptions chart. Can you click on that chart there? I haven't looked at that in a while. We just got the updates. Yes, so there's the full chart. So click open on that tab there. So there's lots of point forms there. But you can see jurisdiction by jurisdiction we have, I don't know why some parts of that are in yellow and other parts aren't. Maybe that was the new stuff. Anyhow, we do or don't have the latest one added. Oh, the yellow today. What province is that? Saskatchewan. Okay, this is the second latest then. I think we're working on uploading the latest, which has Manitoba in it. So anyways, we hire real lawyers to put this chart together to answer what your exemptions are. Rod Brett, $5. We all need to link our arms in a chain of solidarity for liberty. Amen to that. Paradisky, £2. Hi Ezra, please can you say Peterborough? I swear in Canada, how do you say Peterborough? How do you say it? Legit, Peterborough? That's how we say it here. Peterborough, 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 Peterborough. But I know in the real Peterborough, having been there myself for a day or two for a trial, it's Peterborough. 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 You don't really say the T, Pea. You don't say Peter, Pea, and you don't say borough. That's like saying that would be like saying Edinburgh instead of Edinburgh. Peterborough. Like have you ever heard anyone say Edinburgh? No, Edinburgh. Have you ever heard? You probably heard Edinburgh. Yeah, it's not Edinburgh. I don't think. I think it's Edinburgh. So yeah, Peterborough. Lisa Bruce, $2. Fatigued. Yesterday at Jean Coutu, no mask, no issue. You know, I'm very glad to hear that. A lot of people are just tired of fighting, and the masks pit us against each other. They truly do. They pit customers against shopkeepers. They pit customers who comply against customers who don't comply. They turn us into snitches. Well, can you you know, they pit police against all of us. I find that, like those police we saw there, I think that was in New York, about get a warrant, get out. I want to show you a case. It's a little hard to hear, so we'll only play about a minute. It's from the UK. So they're putting the UK under an extremely strict lockdown. But you're allowed to stay open if you're a shop that serves food. So I don't have a deep understanding of this case here, but I believe it's like a card shop, like a Hallmark card shop, like a happy birthday card or your engaged card. And so they were going to be shut down again. But the big box stores, I don't know if they have Walmart over there, but I think they do. They got to have Walmarts in the UK, right? They have lots of stores, like Tesco is a big chain. They got food, they got other things. Tesco is a big food chain. I love it. Go there, get sandwiches, fresh sandwiches. They sell other stuff too at Tesco's. So the Tesco's would never be shut down. That would be like, it's bigger than 7-Eleven. It's got much more food than 7-Eleven. I don't know what the analogy would be over here. So Tesco's gets to stay open and they sell a bunch of stuff. But this little mom and pop shop is going to be shut down. So there's an exemption if you serve food. So they're going to start selling food. Well, the cops come right in because only Walmart, Amazon, Tesco's, and Sainsbury's and the big stores are allowed to be open, not a mom and pop shop. Take a look at this.
You're closed. Have you asked the landlord about that?
I haven't spoken to the landlord.
No, you haven't, have you? That's a load of rubbish.
Just wait a minute. Is that actually? Are you actually saying? Can we have this on film?
Yeah, I've got it.
I'm recording as well. Don't worry. From what I've been told, if you keep failing to abide by the trading standards, saying that you need to be closed, there is a risk that you take on yourself.
I don't get
that
how...
if you continue to fail to obey by the regulations,
well, we'll shut down completely.
That there is a risk that you can be given away, or you can have your license taken away from you, and you can be shut. This is a substantial risk that you are facing by not adhering to the lockdown guidelines and based on what trading standards have advised you already.
We'll have to look into that.
If you want to look into that, I guess I can only go on what I've been told myself.
No, excuse me. You're not even giving us time to sort out what our rights are here. This is wait a minute. This is a business of 30 years here, and
I'm not disputing that.
We don't feel that that the law is right in this respect. That we are not doing anyone any harm by being open. We are doing no harm. What proof is there that we've harmed anyone?
That you're open. You've been told by the Wychavon District Council, the health and protection, the coronavirus restrictions in England and before the regulations, that you do not meet the required premises guidelines to remain open during a lockdown.
Yeah, but you haven't told us why the fact that we're selling food
That's not
items.
up for me to argue. That is.
I don't want to jump the gun, but I asked a friend to visit that store today, and my friend did visit that store today and had a good discussion with the family. I expect to have more news on this next week. But what I heard there that pained me is that they said this is a business of 30 years. Imagine that. Have you put 30 years into something? I haven't. I mean, Rebel's almost 6. I was here for 4 years, here for 5 years. I mean, that's life today, right? But imagine building something for 30 years. The best years of your life. Mom and pop shop, they got a bunch of kids. Kids work there too. You're in a community, your door's open. You meet people every day. You get to know, you're part of the community, you pay taxes. You're victimized by crime. The world affects you. You're exposed to but you endure and you make a life out of it. You make a living out of it. And it's not just a place anymore. It's part of you. You infuse those bricks and mortar with yourself every day for 30 years. And it's not just a job. Now it's you. It's part of you. And your kids are working there too. And along comes some cop. A cop. They're sending a policeman. Have they got all the crimes solved in the UK? All the terrorism, all the rape gangs, let alone the stabbings and the acid attacks? And just, have they got all the crime done? So they're sending police to tell a 30-year shop to shut down. I don't know if you noticed on the right-hand side they were serving chocolate bars. I think they're saying we serve food. Oh no, you got to shut down. Oh, okay, so all their customers can go to the Tesco's, can go to the Walmarts, can go to the Amazon. We're going to send the police to shut down the little stores so Amazon can, and by the way, you go into Walmart, apparently the virus doesn't operate there. Does this not make you mad? I tell you what makes me mad. Makes me mad what they're doing to people, but the fact that so many people are passive makes me madder. Now, I'm not going to be a damn fool like Lamont Daigle and say, I want to drive my car through the CBC and hurt some people. No, because I'm not a kook like him. Lisa Proust, $2. Ezra, any update on the man who attacked David and Aylmer? We're still working on that, so I don't have resolute news. Roxanne LaFrance, are you going to add BC mask exemption to the site, please? I think so. I got to check. I think we got the new version. Should be up today. Thank you for asking. Joyful Heart, $5. Ezra, there will be peaceful protests in Toronto, Queen's Park Thursday, November 26th at 10 a.m., organized by Randy Hillier. Go to nomorelelockdowns.org. Good for Randy. Like I say, I mean, the more the merrier, and Randy's very thoughtful, very principled. He's been in this game a long time. And he's probably not the kind of guy to go hang out naked and pass around a big wooden penis like Lamont is. Just guessing. Wolfcat Wildcat, $100. They keep changing the rules regarding color levels in Ontario. Is there anywhere to get a straight answer? It's not the health units in government. We get different answers each call. Well, I'm very frustrated to hear that. It doesn't surprise me at all. I find that these COVID websites that the provinces have are extremely hard to navigate, very hard to get answers. And do you think the cops know any better than you do? Do you really think so? Canadian Girl, $5. I've made extra exemption cards and I give them out to other non-maskers every time I go out. Well, that's great. You know what? If you send us an email to, just send it to info@rebelnews.com. We can send you a little bag of, if you promise to hand them out. Sounds like you are. We can send you a bag of buttons. So if you're making mask exemption cards, I appreciate the effort. I have a mask exemption card in my wallet, but I believe that the buttons are better. So if you send me a note referencing this conversation to did I say info@rebelnews.com? Give us your address. We'll send you a little container of buttons you can give away. You got to give them away though. The Brinsky, $5. Saw it somewhere. Trudeau pays pennies on his violations compared to us serfs who pay thousands in COVID fines. Hey, what a great point. You know, he gets fined a few $100 for taking that illegal vacation from Billionaire Island. Gets fined a few $100. I saw some of the fines being meted out there in Winnipeg, $1,000 here, $5,000 there. It's absurd. The ruling class gets away with it. And this isn't some Marxism on my part. It's not even a right-wing or left-wing thing. There's the ruling class that's authoritarian, and there's everybody else. Paolo Kegels, $5. What is the BC bylaw for masks? What is the bylaw for BC masks mandate? You know what? I don't know if it's up on our mask exemption website yet, but because I've had some, I'm just gonna, we have a great lawyer who does this, and I, over the weekend, asked him for an update. If I sent this to you, would you be able to show it if I sent you a document? I know it's one. How are we doing for time? Do I have to get off the horn here? No. Okay, so I'm going to send this. How do I move this? I'm going to send it to you right now. I'm going to email it to you. Is that okay? Okay, so I just emailed this very second. I'm going to read the cover letter. Don't put the lawyer's name on it. Just show the document if you would be so kind. Hello, Ezra. Attached is an updated chart with new restrictions in place. As you've noted, a number of new mask laws have been implemented quite recently. See highlighted sections on BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, New Brunswick, and PEI. Unfortunately, the BC Public Health Order isn't yet accessible online, but it came into effect November 19th, and I anticipate it should be up soon. How can you enact a law that hasn't been published yet? How is that even effective? You know, there's an old saying, ignorance of the law is no excuse. How can you enforce a law that hasn't even been published yet? Oh my God. So now that's very small font. Can you really zoom in if that's possible? Like, is it possible to zoom in like double there? My old eyes. You know, I'll just open it here on my screen, actually, right? British Columbia. Masks required in all indoor public settings, e.g. shopping centers, grocery stores, and other retail locations, restaurants, when not seated at a table, city and community facilities, common areas in apartment buildings, condos, and hotels. Masks required in all workplaces, in shared areas, and the areas where physical distancing cannot be maintained, including elevators, hallways, kitchens, break rooms, customer counters. Really? So you have to wear a mask in your staff kitchen? Exceptions: children under age 2, people who cannot put on or remove a mask on their own, others not yet listed but presumably must follow human rights code. So it hasn't even, sounds like it hasn't even been published yet. I'll read the Manitoba one since I got it open. Mask mandatory in all indoor public places, defined as any part of an enclosed place to which members of the public have access, including but not limited to office buildings, retail businesses, healthcare facilities, educational institutions, and restaurants. Masks mandatory at bus shelters and on public transit. Exemptions: kids under 5, medical condition, temporary removal of masks for receiving services, consuming food or drink, establishing one's identity, while seated I don't even know. So we're going to put that up there. We had a lawyer go through it. There's going to be a lot of mask fines. Yeah, the print is very small. Maybe we can have a visually more, send a note to, maybe we need help. I don't know if that's just a really ugly chart. And that's fine, it's useful, but it's not visually easy. I'm going to write a note to A10 and Sarah. Can we please make the exemption chart prettier and easier to read. Maybe a different format. Because that's just really hard to read. And the whole point of it is to be read, right? We're spending money, the lawyers are doing, and they're doing a good job, but we don't have to just take their Excel spreadsheet and put it online. Alex David Duke, $10. Thanks, Alex. How you doing? Paolo Kegels, $5. Exactly how is it effective if we don't know about it? Well, how's it enforceable? I mean, that's my point. You know what? I got to go. It's 1:10. But if you get a ticket and you don't know the law and the cops don't know the law and the law isn't being published, why would you pay that ticket? Especially if it's a higher ticket than what Justin Trudeau gets for breaking the law. So go to fightthefines.com. Do you remember fightthefines.com? You want to show it for a second? Fightthefines.com. We'll fight the fine. We won't pay the fine for you. We'll fight the fine for you. As we have for more than a dozen people in Canada. Fight the Fines Canada. Yeah, tell us your story. Scroll down a little bit. Tell us your story, fight the fines, and look at all these cases. Look at all these cases. I think we've actually got 13 or 14 cases now. And we've had 4 wins, I think. Very interesting mix of people. Just the mix of people in this wonderful country. We got a UK version, an Australian version. And if you click on, tell us your story. So click on tell us your story. Is that clickable there? Yeah. So you see tell us your story. You see that form on the right. And don't worry, it's more than just 20 characters there. So you tell us your story, tell us your name, email, and your phone number, and then we have a lawyer review it. And so if you get a mask infraction or whatever, let us know. And that's the Canadian version. We have a UK version and an Australian version, and we're just going gangbusters. All right, I got to go. Let me just read a few more super chats, and I'm going to say hello. Goodbye. Rusty Peterson, $7. Ezra, are you encouraging lawyers to donate their time in combating fines and such? That's really good thinking, and you're about 5 minutes ahead of me, because my next video on the subject does exactly that, because we need help. The Burbinski, $5, jumping into my car on Wednesday to drive from Vancouver to Toronto, hoping there won't be any travel roadblocks before I get there and on my return. I don't think there will be, but there have been roadblocks in other jurisdictions. The Atlantic. I don't think it's legal. If you're stopped at a roadblock by a cop, film it on your camera and send me the tape. Lisa Proust, $5. Ezra, did you see a video of China airport where they tried to stop thousands of people because 2 people tested positive? It was madness. I did see that video. I don't know if I retweeted or anything, but I know exactly the video. It was quite something. Total package 69, $5. Thank you. Ray W, £5. When Newsom got caught at a party, he was telling people to put masks on between bites. Oh yeah, you know what? It's crazy. And I've noticed that a lot of LA County sheriffs have said, we're not enforcing those laws. And good for them. You've got a certain amount of political capital as a police force. Really, when you think about it, police spend 99% of their time building up capital to spend it that 1% of the time. What do I mean by building up capital? I don't mean financial capital. I mean reputational capital, support from the community. 99% of the time, a cop's job is boring, I think. You're more an ambassador, you're a diplomat, you're a social worker, you're a helper out, or you're a, hey kids, how you doing? Hey, help a little lady across the street. Oh, traffic light is out, let me help. Like 99% of the time, I'm guessing, a cop's job is serve. And then 1% of the time it's, all right, I'm spending my capital now, we got to arrest someone, we got to do something tough. Could you imagine you're a cop for 10, 20 years? You build up love, affection, support, respect, trust, and you're going to spend that political capital going after some mom and pop shop because they're not shutting down, because someone's not wearing a mask over their nose? That you're going to spend that capital that way as a police. You risk your life, and you need the support of the community for when things get sideways. And you're going to spend that capital on Gavin Newsom's mask law while he himself doesn't follow it? Nancy Pelosi gets her hair done. Justin Trudeau travels at will. Patty Hyde travels on private jets, doesn't wear a mask. You're a cop, and you're going to use you're going to turn someone against, like that shop in the UK there. 30 years they've been there. They probably know the cop. How could they not? And you're going to burn up 30 years of goodwill to give them a ticket? That's a stupid cop, sorry. Unless they were ordered to do so by their brass, who's even stupider. You know, I love the New York City Police. I know our friend Anna Slatz was thrown in the clink inappropriately once, but despite that anomaly, I think the New York Police Department is the finest police force in the world. I think they are actually an outstanding counterterrorism police force. I've had mild and friendly interactions with them when I'm in New York. I think they're the best police force in the world. I think they are. They've had a tough go of it under de Blasio, that's for sure. They are not, well, actually it's not true. Some of them are following the mayor's orders to crack down on the Jews for having, get-togethers. But other than the New York PD, I think the most respected police in the world are generally British police. Robert Peel, the Bobbies, they really define modern policing. And most police in the UK still don't have guns. Their moral authority is so powerful. I think they are the most trusted, respected police in the world, with the exception of the New York City Police. And they are frittering it away on shutting down stores because some bureaucrat said to. They are murdering their reputation, a reputation that took centuries to build. They're frittering it away. And that is difficult to watch, and I can only imagine what it's like on the inside. Lisa Proust, $2. Ezra, I sent an amazing dog video, a rescue. I think we have that. I haven't seen your dog video, Lisa, but if it's the one we're about to show, we already have it. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for participating today. I know we didn't cover all the ground we wanted to, but we covered good ground nonetheless. Thanks to our very generous super chatters, especially $200 from David the Dam. It's just a stunning gift. I don't know if I interpreted your comment correctly, but thank you. I'm going to say goodbye. Today, I found the dog video. I sent it to Justin. I think it's the same one Lisa did. You may have seen it already. If not, get prepared to be wowed. I think we should show this 2 times in a row. I'm going to say goodbye now. See you later, everybody. Look at this dog video from Florida. Check it out.
A man leaps into the water to grab a hold of his King Charles Spaniel and wrest it from the jaws of the alligator. It takes several seconds until he's able to put the gator down, shake the puppy from its grip. The puppy did suffer a puncture to its belly, but is doing just fine after a trip to the vet. A man leaps into the water to grab a hold of his King Charles Spaniel and wrest it from the jaws of the alligator. It takes several seconds until he's able to put the gator down, shake the puppy from its grip. The puppy did suffer a puncture to its belly, but is doing just fine after a trip to the vet. A man leaps into the